Lyra had traveled across countless star systems, her ship gliding silently through the cold, black expanse of space. She had seen planets of every shape and color, some teeming with life, others barren and empty. Yet nothing had prepared her for the strange anticipation she felt as she approached a small blue and green planet, Earth. She had read the reports, watched the distant transmissions, and studied the data sent by scouts. Humanity, they said, was a peaceful species, calm and gentle, living simple lives and building societies with care. Lyra had believed them at first. She had believed that humans were harmless, almost too fragile to survive in a galaxy full of challenges. Her vessel descended slowly into the atmosphere, the air around it shimmering as the craft adjusted to Earth's gravitational pull. Lyra peered through the observation window at the sprawling cities below. Buildings of glass and steel reached toward the sky, their surfaces reflecting sunlight like mirrors. Roads crisscrossed the land, carrying tiny, moving shapes she would later learn were humans, rushing about in what seemed like organized chaos. Lyra felt a mixture of curiosity and cautious excitement. This mission was not merely observational. Her superiors had instructed her to study human society, to understand their culture, and to determine if their peaceful nature was true or merely a facade. The reports had hinted at a species capable of great creativity and kindness, yet with pockets of hidden strength. That phrase, hidden strength, intrigued Lyra more than anything else. What kind of strength did peaceful beings possess? And why had her informants chosen those words so carefully? She decided to begin her investigation in a bustling city, known for its cooperation and community programs. The city seemed alive with energy. Children played in public parks, laughing and running under the watchful eyes of their parents. Markets overflowed with colorful fruits and fragrant spices, and strangers greeted each other with warm smiles. Lyra was fascinated. The humans she saw were polite, gentle, and remarkably inventive in the small details of their lives. They built systems to help one another, shared knowledge freely, and worked together in ways her own species sometimes struggled to achieve. As she floated above the city in a quiet observation pod, Lyra took detailed notes. She watched as a group of humans helped an elderly person cross the street, their hands steady, their voices soft and reassuring. She saw volunteers organizing donations for those in need, distributing supplies with care and thoughtfulness. Everywhere she looked, humans seemed engaged in acts of kindness, small and large, their lives intertwined in an intricate dance of cooperation. Yet, even as Lyra admired this peaceful world, she could not ignore the subtle undercurrent of tension. There were moments when humans seemed alert, watching their surroundings with careful eyes. Children occasionally paused mid-laugh, noticing a stranger passing by, and adults exchanged quick, knowing glances. It was not fear, Lyra realized, but awareness, a kind of silent vigilance that hinted at an unspoken readiness. Then, Lyra noticed something even more curious. A small group of humans moved swiftly through a busy square, almost invisible among the crowd. They were not running or panicked, yet their movements were precise, almost rehearsed. Lyra's sensors picked up their coordinated patterns, a series of subtle signals, gestures, and cues that seemed to guide them without words. She had studied countless species in her travels, but she had never seen such efficiency, such quiet confidence. Her interest deepened. These humans were not just peaceful. They were observant, alert, and organized in ways that suggested an inner strength she had not yet understood. She reviewed her previous reports, wondering if this was the hidden strength the scouts had mentioned. Perhaps humanity's peace was not the absence of power, but a conscious choice to channel strength into protection and care rather than conflict. Lyra decided to follow them discreetly. She adjusted her pod's cloaking systems and descended closer to the ground. The humans moved with purpose, guiding others, assisting those in minor accidents, and redirecting small incidents before they could escalate. It was a pattern repeated across the city. Whenever a challenge appeared, a quiet force seemed to emerge from the shadows, not to punish or attack, but to assist and stabilize. Hours passed as Lyra observed. She began to recognize the signs, subtle at first but growing clearer with each interaction. The mysterious humans she tracked were not performing random acts. They had a system, a code of conduct rooted in empathy, awareness, and clever problem-solving. Their strength was invisible yet undeniable. As night fell, the city transformed. Lights sparkled in windows. Streets glowed with gentle lamps, and the sounds of daily life softened into a steady hum. Lyra continued her vigil, fascinated by the way humans adapted to each other's needs, creating harmony even in the darkness. The group she had been following finally paused on a high pedestrian bridge overlooking a river. Lyra watched as one of them, taller than the rest and moving with calm authority, stepped forward. There was no weapon, no aggressive stance, yet something about his presence radiated assurance. He directed the others with a nod, his eyes scanning the streets below as if he could see every detail in the city at once. Lyra felt a sudden chill of awe. She realized this was not merely leadership. It was mastery of environment and circumstance, a warrior's clarity applied not to destruction but to protection. Her mind raced with questions. How had humans, so outwardly peaceful, developed such subtle strength? How could a species so kind and gentle possess the capacity for precise, effective action without harm? Lyra's sensors recorded everything, the gestures, the timing, the coordination. She knew she had discovered something extraordinary, something her reports had not captured. As the mysterious figure guided the group back into the shadows of the city, Lyra adjusted her pod's trajectory to follow from a safe distance. She felt a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. She had arrived expecting peace, and she found it. But layered beneath that peace was resilience, courage, and an intelligence that could rival the most disciplined of her own species. Lyra understood, for the first time, that humanity's strength was subtle. It was not in force or domination, but in vigilance, creativity, and the willingness to step forward when needed. The humans she observed were protectors, though they wielded no weapons. Their victories were measured in safety, in calm resolution, in lives quietly saved. By the end of the night, Lyra returned to her ship with her mind buzzing. She had come to study peaceful creatures, expecting simplicity and gentleness. Instead, she had found complexity and quiet mastery, a species that balanced kindness with capability and gentleness with courage. She had glimpsed a warrior, not of violence but of wisdom and careful action, stepping out of the shadows when the world needed him most. Lyra smiled softly, her anticipation growing. The journey ahead promised revelations beyond what she had imagined. She was not just studying humanity. She was about to learn from them, to see how peace and strength could coexist in a species capable of both extraordinary care and extraordinary protection. As the first rays of dawn touched the city, Lyra set her ship into orbit, her eyes lingering on the streets below. Somewhere in those crowded avenues, the mysterious human would continue his quiet work, unseen yet influential, guiding and protecting. She did not yet know his name, but she knew this: humanity was not as simple as she had thought. And her research was only beginning. The morning sun spread golden light over the city, illuminating streets, buildings, and the quiet hum of life. Lyra's observation pod hovered above the city once again, silent and almost invisible to human eyes. Her sensors scanned the streets, below, seeking the mysterious figure she had seen the night before, the one who moved with calm authority, guiding and protecting others without ever raising a hand in anger. Lyra had spent hours reviewing the footage from her previous night, noting patterns and behaviors. The humans she had observed were peaceful in appearance, yet they possessed an inner organization that bordered on extraordinary. She had never seen a species so committed to helping each other, while simultaneously being alert, precise, and capable. The hidden strength her scouts had mentioned was now clear to her. It was not aggression. It was control, awareness, and unwavering focus in the face of uncertainty. Her attention was drawn suddenly to the sky. Strange lights flickered along the horizon. Lyra tilted her pod's sensors toward the phenomenon. Reports had not prepared her for this. A solar flare was interacting with the Earth's magnetic field, causing energy surges in the city's electrical grids. Streetlights flickered and powered systems briefly failed, sending ripples of disruption through urban life. At first, people were confused. Traffic signals blinked unpredictably, elevators paused between floors, and communication systems faltered. But amidst the uncertainty, Lyra saw movement, calm, deliberate, and coordinated. The mysterious human figure she had been tracking appeared from the shadows, moving quickly through the streets. Unlike the chaos around him, He exuded a sense of order. Lyra observed as he guided citizens safely across intersections where traffic lights had failed. He spoke in calm tones, his voice carrying through small megaphones, instructing people on how to move, stay calm, and remain safe. Children clung to the hands of adults he pointed toward safe routes, and elderly citizens smiled in relief as he ensured they avoided danger. Lyra's sensors recorded the energy flows, but what fascinated her most was the strategy behind his actions. He did not act randomly or impulsively. Each movement was calculated, each decision intentional. He positioned volunteers where they were most needed, coordinated teams to stabilize fallen power lines, and even assisted technicians in restoring vital systems. All this was done without force, without panic, and without raising voices unnecessarily. From her vantage point, Lyra could see how the human mind worked in crisis. The figure, whom she now thought of as the Guardian, seemed to understand not only physical surroundings but the emotional state of those around him. He sensed fear, hesitation, and uncertainty, and he countered them with calm gestures, clear instructions, and gentle encouragement. The people responded immediately, their panic replaced with focus and cooperation. Lyra felt a thrill of admiration. This was unlike anything she had seen before. In all her travels, species often relied on power, dominance, or force to handle emergencies. Yet here, humans used nothing of the sort. Instead, they relied on understanding, careful planning, and leadership that inspired trust. This mysterious figure was a warrior indeed, but his battlefield was not one of destruction. It was one of protection and guidance. The crisis escalated briefly when a small power station sparked and threatened to overload. Flames were not visible, but the danger of an electrical surge was real. People nearby froze, unsure of what to do. Lyra watched in awe as the Guardian directed 2 volunteers to disconnect circuits safely. He guided them step by step, ensuring their movements were precise and safe. When the task was complete, the threat was neutralized and the citizens nearby clapped quietly, their relief evident. Lyra realized something important. Humans were capable of incredible bravery, but it was bravery rooted in care and knowledge, not aggression. The Guardian's strength was not measured by how much damage he could inflict on an enemy, but by how effectively he could prevent harm, assist those in need, and restore order. He was a living example of humanity's unique balance of gentleness and power. As the day progressed, Lyra continued to follow the Guardian. He moved through neighborhoods, helping families trapped in minor accidents caused by the energy surges. She noted how he coordinated multiple groups simultaneously. Volunteers assisted the elderly, engineers repaired power lines, and emergency crews guided traffic. Yet no one acted independently of the others. Each person's movement was synchronized, a small part of a larger human network that functioned like a living organism. Lyra's curiosity grew. Who was this human, and how did he learn such remarkable skills? She scanned the city for his background but found nothing unusual. He was an ordinary citizen by description, yet extraordinary in action. Perhaps it was not genetics that made him remarkable, but choice. Perhaps humanity, when confronted with danger, brought forth its best qualities: creativity, courage, and collaboration. As the energy surges continued, the Guardian paused briefly on a city rooftop. From this high vantage point, he assessed the situation, his eyes scanning every street, alley, and building. Lyra saw the way he calculated distances, predicted movements, and anticipated problems before they occurred. His mind moved with clarity, mapping possibilities and outcomes in real time. Lyra's respect deepened. She realized she had underestimated humans. They were not fragile. They were adaptable. Their strength was invisible yet profound. The Guardian demonstrated that when humans worked together, guided by wisdom and empathy, they could solve problems far greater than any single individual could face. Eventually, the energy surges subsided as technicians, guided by the Guardian, restored the city's power systems. Lights flickered back on, and systems returned to normal. Citizens emerged from their temporary shelters, exchanging stories of minor challenges and unexpected help. They laughed softly, shared relief, and praised those who had assisted them. Lyra, observing from above, felt a sense of wonder. She had arrived expecting to witness peace, and she had found it, but she had also discovered something more profound. Humans were peaceful, yes, but not weak. Their strength lay not in weapons or force, but in courage, empathy, and the ability to act decisively when others faltered. The Guardian vanished from sight as the city returned to routine life. Lyra adjusted, her pod's position to follow him, curious to understand more. She wanted to see how he interacted with ordinary humans, how he inspired them without domination, how he nurtured courage without fear. As night fell again, Lyra reflected on the day's events. She had witnessed a true human warrior, not one who fought for power or glory, but one who fought to protect, to guide, and to empower others. She realized that this was the hidden nature of humanity, not fragile beings in need of protection, but guardians in their own right, capable of extraordinary action in the face of uncertainty. Her thoughts turned to her mission. She had been sent to study humans, to record their behavior and report on their peaceful nature. She had expected simplicity, yet she had found a depth she could scarcely describe. The human's power was subtle, almost invisible, yet undeniable. It was in the courage to act, in the wisdom to guide, and in the creativity to solve problems without harm. Lyra knew that the days ahead would be filled with more discoveries. She wanted to learn everything about the Guardian, his methods, his decisions, his understanding of human nature. But more importantly, she wanted to understand the humans themselves, how ordinary citizens could rise to extraordinary levels of courage and ingenuity when guided by a silent, steady presence. The city below glowed softly under the night sky. Lyra's pod hovered silently, recording every detail. She had come seeking peace, and she had found it. But layered beneath that peace was something richer, more profound, and more inspiring. The humans she observed were gentle, yes, but also resilient. They were capable of leadership, cooperation, and quiet heroism. Lyra smiled softly. She knew that she had not merely witnessed a day in the life of a peaceful species. She had witnessed a story of courage, intelligence, and quiet power, qualities that defined humanity in ways no report could fully capture. The Guardian, unseen by most, had revealed the truth. Humans were peaceful not because they were weak, but because they chose to be strong in ways that mattered most. And Lyra, observing from the shadows of the skies above, felt privileged to be the one to see it first. Lyra could hardly sleep in her observation pod that night. Her mind buzzed with questions about the mysterious human she had seen, the Guardian. His actions during the city's energy surges had been precise, efficient, and calming, yet she still did not understand how he had gained such skills. He was not in uniform, carried no visible tools beyond small devices, and yet he seemed capable of handling crises that would overwhelm most humans. Determined to learn more, Lyra decided she had to meet him directly. She prepared her pod to descend closer to the city without being noticed. The night was quiet, with the soft hum of distant traffic and occasional voices drifting through the streets. Lyra landed in a shadowed alley, her sensors scanning for the Guardian. It did not take long. A figure moved silently along the sidewalks, guiding late-night travelers and workers with quiet, confident gestures. Lyra hesitated for only a moment before activating a communication link. "Excuse me," she said softly, her voice translated into human language by the pod. The Guardian froze, his eyes scanning the shadows. Then slowly he approached. "You are not from around here," he said calmly, his voice steady and reassuring. There was no suspicion in his tone, only curiosity. "No," Lyra admitted. "I have traveled far to study your species. I observed you during the city's energy surges. You acted with such precision and care. I wish to learn from you." The Guardian, whose name she would soon learn was Orcs, smiled faintly. Many humans have courage, but few notice how it shows in quiet ways. "I do not seek recognition, and I do not act for glory. I act because it is necessary. That is how humans survive and thrive." Lyra was intrigued. "Necessary, but not aggressive?" Orc shook his head. "Strength is not always force. Humans survive through cooperation, innovation, and empathy. When danger arises, the greatest weapon is knowledge, not destruction. Courage is measured by how much one protects, not harms. They walked together through the city streets. Lyra's pod hovered silently, recording every moment. Auric explained how he trained with volunteers and community leaders, teaching them ways to remain calm, assess risks, and take action without panic. Ordinary humans become extraordinary when they work together, he said. Each person has a role and every action matters. Courage multiplies when shared. Lyra was amazed. In her travels, she had seen countless species rely on weapons, fear, or raw strength to survive crises. But humanity, as Auric explained, relied on the mind, the heart, and collective action. It was an approach that required intelligence, foresight, and empathy in equal measure. As they approached a small neighborhood park, Auric paused. Children were playing despite the recent disturbances, laughing and running freely. Parents watched attentively but without fear. Auric knelt and spoke to a child who had stumbled and fallen. His words were gentle, instructive, and encouraging. Lyra observed carefully. Even in this small moment, she saw how humans nurtured resilience in one another. They guided each other through difficulties, teaching lessons without harshness, fostering strength without force. I do not only act during crises, Auric explained. The best protection is preparation. Humans teach, train, and support each other daily. When danger arrives, we are ready. But even readiness is not enough alone. It must be paired with care. Lyra noticed a pattern. Auric's strength was invisible yet everywhere. It was in the gestures that reassured a frightened child, the calm instructions that guided a panicked worker, and the subtle coordination that allowed teams to respond efficiently to complex problems. She realized that humans were warriors in a sense that few species could understand. Their battles were against uncertainty, chaos, and fear, and their victories were measured in lives improved, preserved, or saved. Curious, Lyra asked, "How did you learn this? Were you trained?" Auric's eyes softened. "I was taught by ordinary humans. Family, teachers, friends. They all showed me that courage is not loud. I practiced, observed, and learned. Anyone can develop these skills, but it requires patience and willingness. Humans grow stronger by helping each other, not by dominating each other." Lyra considered this carefully. In her culture, strength was often measured by ability to enforce, to conquer, to dominate circumstances. Humans measured strength differently. Here, strength was measured by the impact one had on the lives of others and by the ability to remain calm and intelligent under pressure. It was a philosophy that combined logic, compassion, and courage seamlessly. They continued through the city, passing volunteers who assisted in restoring disrupted systems from the previous energy surges. Lyra observed their teamwork. One group worked together to repair communication nodes. Another helped families relocate to safe zones, while others organized supplies for those temporarily displaced. Every individual contributed their unique skills, yet the collective effort was greater than the sum of its parts. Auric paused to speak to Lyra again. Humans are remarkable because we choose cooperation over conflict. Even when challenges appear, we rely on knowledge, planning, and support from one another. True courage is quiet. It is the choice to act wisely, not recklessly. Lyra realized that she was witnessing something far deeper than heroism. It was a culture of resilient empathy, where ordinary individuals were trained, inspired, and encouraged to face difficulties with calm intelligence. She recorded every word, gesture, and interaction, knowing that this insight would change how her people understood humanity. Later, as night settled over the city, Auric invited Lyra to observe a training exercise. Volunteers practiced coordinating emergency responses in a simulation of a minor flood. Lyra saw humans using ingenuity, creativity, and careful communication to navigate obstacles. There was no panic, no need for force. Every decision was guided by understanding of the environment and awareness of each other's strengths and limitations. Lyra was fascinated. This was not just training for emergencies, it was training for life. Humans built resilience through teamwork, creativity, and encouragement. Even when the challenges were small, the lessons carried weight. Every person who participated grew stronger, more confident, and more capable of acting when needed. Auric noticed Lyra's amazement. "Most outsiders see humans as fragile or simple," he said. "They do not see the quiet strength built into our lives. Strength is not about weapons or force. It is about courage, foresight, and care. It is about empowering others to act wisely." Lyra nodded. She had begun to understand why humans were so different from what she had expected. They were peaceful in intent yet resilient in action. Their power was subtle but profound, and it was not limited to exceptional individuals. Every human had the potential to rise to extraordinary challenges when guided and supported. As the night deepened, Lyra reflected on everything she had seen. The city, quiet under the soft glow of streetlights, seemed alive in a new way. Humans were connected not just by streets or technology, but by trust, cooperation, and shared responsibility. Even the Guardian, remarkable as he was part of a larger system, a network of ordinary humans empowered to act with courage and care. Arik and Lyra finally paused on a quiet rooftop overlooking the city. The hum of life below was soothing, a reminder of the ongoing small acts of kindness and intelligence that sustained the community. Arik turned to Lyra. "You see now," he said gently. "Humans are peaceful not because we are weak, but because we understand what true strength means. Strength is in courage without cruelty, action without aggression, and protection without domination. That is why we thrive even in the face of uncertainty." Lyra felt a sense of awe unlike anything she had experienced. She had expected to witness a simple, peaceful species. Instead, she had discovered a civilization capable of extraordinary action without force, a society that nurtured courage in every individual, and a people who had redefined what it meant to be strong. She looked down at the streets below, lit softly by the city's lights. Children played, families walked together, and volunteers moved calmly through their nightly tasks. And somewhere in the shadows, guiding and protecting, was Arik, the quiet warrior who embodied humanity's potential. Lyra understood that her study of humans was no longer just observation. She was learning from them, absorbing lessons of courage, wisdom, and empathy, and she knew deep in her core that humanity's story was only beginning, and that she was witnessing the first chapters of something remarkable. For the first time, Lyra felt a connection, not just as a researcher observing a distant species, but as a student learning from teachers who taught without words, who guided without force, and who inspired without demanding attention. The night sky stretched endlessly above the city, filled with stars. Lyra looked upward, her mind alive with questions, curiosity, and excitement. She knew that the days ahead would reveal even more about humanity's strength, resilience, and ingenuity, and she was ready to follow, learn, and witness, knowing that the most extraordinary lessons often came from the quietest actions. The following morning, Lyra's observation pod hovered silently above the city, its sensors tracking every movement below. The city had returned to its usual rhythm after the previous day's energy surges, yet an air of quiet vigilance remained. Citizens moved with purpose, aware of potential challenges but confident in their ability to adapt. Lyra admired this subtle balance, peaceful life maintained through preparedness, courage, and cooperation. Her attention was drawn to the horizon. A strange glow lit the sky, unnatural in its intensity. The city's weather systems indicated an incoming electromagnetic storm, a phenomenon that could disrupt electrical grids, communication systems, and transportation networks. Lyra's sensors picked up the initial tremors in the energy fields. She realized this would be a greater challenge than anything the city had faced the day before. Without hesitation, Arik appeared in the streets, moving among citizens and volunteers as if he had known this storm was coming. Lyra followed closely, recording his every action. He did not rush or panic. Instead, he calmly organized response teams, assessing the needs of different neighborhoods and assigning tasks efficiently. The first signs of the storm became visible as lights flickered across the city. Public transport slowed as automated systems detected fluctuations in power. Yet the citizens, guided by Arik's calm instructions, did not panic. Children were brought indoors safely by volunteers. Elderly residents were assisted to stable shelters, and workers quickly checked essential systems. Lyra noted the precision of their movements. Every person had a role, every action was coordinated, and confusion was minimized. Arik paused at a city communications hub. Technicians were struggling to stabilize the data lines affected by the electromagnetic disturbances. Without hesitation, Arik approached, analyzing the situation in seconds. Using small handheld tools, he demonstrated methods to reroute energy flow safely, ensuring that vital communication lines remained functional. Volunteers assisted, following his instructions with careful attention. Lyra watched, fascinated as a potentially dangerous situation became manageable through intelligence, teamwork, and calm coordination. As the storm intensified, the city experienced sporadic energy surges. Traffic lights blinked unpredictably, elevators paused mid-floor, and automated systems temporarily failed. Yet, thanks to Arek's guidance, citizens moved smoothly through the streets. He had prepared contingency plans in advance, teaching people how to respond to emergencies without causing harm or panic. Lyra realized that this was humanity at its most remarkable. The storm could have caused chaos, yet the city functioned with minimal disruption. The secret was not advanced technology alone, but the people themselves. Ordinary humans had learned to adapt, think critically, and cooperate under pressure. Arek's role was not to command, but to guide, to empower others to act wisely. In one neighborhood, a small group of volunteers helped families secure loose items on rooftops. Children were moved to safe areas, while parents assisted with minor preparations. Arek moved among them quietly, offering guidance and encouragement. Lyra noted how his calm presence inspired confidence. Fearful residents became focused and determined, understanding that safety could be achieved through coordinated action. Meanwhile, in the central district, Arek coordinated teams to protect essential services. Engineers worked together to stabilize energy lines, transport operators rerouted vehicles, and volunteers managed public spaces to prevent accidents. Lyra observed how the entire city operated as a single organism, with Arek acting as a quiet conductor, guiding the flow without force or aggression. Hours passed, and the storm reached its peak. Lightning danced across the sky, and electromagnetic pulses caused momentary glitches in electronic devices. Yet the city endured. Citizens followed instructions, supported each other, and adapted to changing conditions. Lyra marveled at the ingenuity on display. Humans had developed solutions that relied on intelligence, empathy, and resourcefulness rather than violence or coercion. In the heart of the city, a critical water supply station was at risk of being disrupted by the storm. The facility controlled reservoirs for several neighborhoods, and failure could have left thousands without clean water. Arek arrived swiftly, assessing the situation. He guided technicians and volunteers through a step-by-step stabilization process, ensuring that the water system remained functional. The humans followed his directions with precision, working together seamlessly. Lyra recorded every detail. She understood that the storm was not merely a test of technology. It was a test of human character. The true power of humanity was evident in their ability to act collectively, creatively, and calmly in the face of adversity. Strength was not in dominance or force. It was in resilience, cooperation, and courage. As night fell, the storm began to subside. Electricity returned to the city, communications were restored, and life slowly returned to normal. Citizens emerged from shelters, smiling and sharing stories of how they had helped each other through the crisis. Volunteers and workers exchanged quiet congratulations, proud of their accomplishments. Arek remained in the shadows, observing the results, his presence reassuring but unobtrusive. Lyra descended her pod closer to him. She wanted to understand more about the philosophy behind these actions. "How do humans remain so calm during such challenges?" she asked. Arek smiled gently. "We learn to prepare and trust each other. Panic is a choice, but cooperation is instinct when trained properly. Humans grow stronger when they face challenges together, and courage multiplies when shared. Knowledge and empathy are the most effective tools we have." Lyra nodded. She realized that what she had witnessed was a form of leadership, unlike anything she had studied before. It was not about issuing commands or enforcing rules. It was about inspiring confidence, distributing knowledge, and allowing people to act wisely on their own. Humans were warriors in a sense, but their battlefield was life itself, and their victories were measured in safety, collaboration, and resilience. The city slowly settled into calm. Streetlights glowed steadily, and the hum of electrical systems returned to normal. Families walked through quiet neighborhoods, and volunteers returned home, exhausted but proud. Lyra followed Arek briefly as he moved to a small park overlooking the river. He sat quietly on a bench, watching the calm after the storm, as if taking a moment to reflect. "You teach humans without force," Lyra said softly. "You inspire without demanding. How do you do it?" Arek looked at her thoughtfully. It is simple, though not easy. People respond to guidance, encouragement, and clarity. I do not act alone. I act with them. Every person has potential to contribute. Every person can make a difference. My role is to help them see that, especially when fear or uncertainty clouds judgment. Lyra felt a profound sense of admiration. She had expected to study peaceful humans, and she had found them. But she had also discovered courage, ingenuity, and wisdom woven into every action. Humans were not simply survivors. They were creators of order, builders of solutions, and protectors of each other. Their strength was subtle, quiet, and remarkable. As the night deepened, Arik and Lyra watched the city lights shimmer in the calm. Children played safely in well-lit parks. Families strolled together, and volunteers tidied up after the storm. The city had faced a challenge, yet no destruction occurred. The people had worked together, guided by knowledge, care, and courage. Lyra realized that this was the essence of humanity's hidden strength, the ability to act decisively, wisely, and compassionately even when danger loomed. You see it now, Arik said quietly. Humans are peaceful not because we are weak, but because we understand what real strength is. Strength is not measured by what we can destroy, but by what we can protect, create, and inspire. That is why we endure. Lyra felt a deep sense of understanding. She had traveled countless light years expecting to witness a gentle species. Instead, she had witnessed humanity at its best, resilient, clever, empathetic, and courageous. She had seen people rise above fear, work together seamlessly, and overcome challenges not through violence, but through ingenuity and cooperation. As dawn approached, Lyra returned to her pod. She would need time to process everything she had witnessed. The storm had revealed not only the Guardians' abilities, but also the collective strength of ordinary humans. They were capable of extraordinary action when guided, inspired, and united. Lyra smiled softly as she looked out over the city. She had come to study humans, expecting simplicity and peace. Instead, she had discovered a species capable of brilliance, courage, and quiet heroism. And she knew that the next stages of her journey would reveal even greater lessons. Lessons that would forever change her understanding of strength, courage, and the true meaning of being human. The city below settled into a gentle rhythm once more, the calm after the storm filled with life, laughter, and quiet determination. Lyra understood something vital. Humanity's greatest power was not in aggression or dominance, but in their ability to work together, think creatively, and act with empathy and courage. And somewhere in the shadows, always watching, always guiding, was Arik, the human warrior who embodied this extraordinary truth. The city had returned to normal after the recent electromagnetic storm. Streets hummed with life. Children's laughter echoed through parks, and citizens moved with their usual quiet purpose. Lyra watched from her observation pod, her mind reflecting on everything she had witnessed over the past days. She had arrived expecting a peaceful species, one that relied on gentle cooperation. Instead, she had discovered humanity's hidden strength, a courage, wisdom, and ingenuity that allowed them to face challenges without aggression or fear. She descended closer to the streets, eager to witness more of the subtle ways humans protected and cared for each other. Volunteers were distributing supplies to neighborhoods affected by the storm, helping restore minor damage and ensure comfort for families. Engineers and technicians checked power lines and communication networks, their work careful and precise. Ordinary citizens assisted where they could, demonstrating initiative, problem-solving, and collaboration. Lyra's attention turned to a quiet alley where she finally saw him again. Arik, the human guardian who had guided the city through chaos without ever raising his voice in anger. He moved calmly among the people, offering advice, support, and encouragement. His presence was subtle, yet unmistakable, an anchor for those navigating the complexities of city life. Lyra descended from her pod and stepped out onto the street. Arik noticed her immediately, though his expression remained calm and welcoming. "You have returned," he said softly. "Have you learned more about humans?" Lyra smiled. "Yes, more than I could have imagined. I came expecting a peaceful species. I found something far greater. Humans are peaceful, yes, but also resilient, courageous, and ingenious. You and others like you guide, protect, and inspire without violence. That is extraordinary," Arik nodded. "It is the way we live. Strength is not measured by what we can destroy, but by what we can preserve, improve, and inspire. Humans thrive because we work together, support each other, and act with understanding. Courage is quiet. It grows in everyday actions, not just during crises. Lyra's sensors recorded every word, every gesture, but she realized that technology alone could not capture the essence of what she had witnessed. Humans had a power that transcended physical strength. It was in their decisions, their care for one another, and their ability to face challenges with creativity and empathy. The Guardian had shown her that heroism did not require weapons, and leadership did not require force. The day passed with ordinary tasks, yet Lyra noticed extraordinary lessons in each one. Families repaired minor damage to their homes with ingenuity. Communities organized food distribution and ensured that everyone had access to resources. Volunteers guided children safely through streets and parks, teaching resilience and problem-solving. Everywhere she looked, humans acted with purpose, intelligence, and care, creating harmony out of complexity. Lyra reflected on the differences between humanity and other species she had studied. Many civilizations relied on power, dominance, or fear to achieve order. Here she observed the opposite. Order arose from cooperation, courage, and creativity. Humans did not need to fight to survive. They chose to help, support, and protect each other. Strength was measured in lives saved, systems preserved, and communities uplifted. By evening, Lyra and Arik walked along a quiet riverside. The city lights reflected in the water, and the air was calm, filled with soft sounds of life continuing peacefully. Arik spoke quietly, as if sharing wisdom meant to be understood slowly, deeply. Most outsiders see humans as simple or fragile, he said. They do not understand that our greatest achievements come from collaboration, empathy, and courage. We thrive because we empower each other, not because we dominate. That is the lesson many overlook. Lyra absorbed his words, feeling the truth in them. Humanity's strength was not in individual brilliance alone, but in the collective willingness to act wisely and selflessly. Every ordinary person could become extraordinary when guided, encouraged, and inspired. Arik was remarkable, yes, but he was also a reflection of what humans were capable of when they chose to care, to act, and to lead with understanding. As night fell, Lyra finally understood the depth of her mission. She had been sent to observe humans, to document their behavior, and to report on their peaceful nature. Yet what she had witnessed went beyond mere peace. Humanity possessed a strength that was invisible but powerful, gentle but unwavering. It was a strength born from empathy, courage, and intelligence, a strength that could shape societies, overcome crises, and inspire others across the galaxy. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest she had not expected. She realized that humans were not only worthy of study but worthy of admiration. Their choices, their ingenuity, and their quiet heroism were lessons that could guide her own species. She understood now that strength could exist without violence, that courage could flourish in gentleness, and that leadership could shine without force. The next morning, Lyra prepared her ship for departure. She would return to her homeworld, but she carried with her something far more valuable than data or recordings. She carried understanding, a new perspective on what it meant to be strong, capable, and extraordinary. Humans had taught her that true power was measured in protection, inspiration, and the ability to act wisely in times of uncertainty. Before leaving, Lyra sought out Arik one last time. She found him on a quiet rooftop overlooking the city, as if watching over the people he protected. "You have shown me something extraordinary," Lyra said. "Not just your actions, but what humanity represents. I will carry this knowledge back to my world. Humans are peaceful, yes, but also brave, wise, and capable. Your species is remarkable," Arik smiled faintly. "Thank you. Remember this, courage is quiet, strength is in care, and leadership is in guidance. Humans will continue to grow, not through domination, but through collaboration and understanding. That is our greatest achievement." Lyra nodded, deeply moved. She had come to Earth expecting simplicity, and she had found complexity, resilience, and quiet brilliance. The Guardian, unseen by most, had revealed the heart of humanity, a species whose power was measured not by conquest but by care, intelligence, and courage. As her ship ascended into orbit, Lyra looked down one last time. The city stretched beneath her, alive with life, creativity, and collaboration. Children played, families moved safely through streets, and volunteers guided the flow of the city with patience and care. And somewhere in the shadows, Arik continued his quiet work, a symbol of humanity's extraordinary potential. Lyra understood now why her scouts had spoken of hidden strength. It was not a physical power, nor a weapon of war. It was the courage to act wisely, the will to protect others, and the intelligence to solve problems with care and creativity. Humans were peaceful, yes, but their strength was undeniable, subtle, and transformative. She set her course for home, her heart full of admiration and her mind full of insight. Humanity had shown her that peace and strength could coexist, that courage could be gentle, and that wisdom could guide action without fear. She would carry these lessons back to her people, sharing the story of a species whose true might lay not in what they could destroy, but in what they could protect, create, and inspire. And as she looked back one final time, Lyra smiled, knowing that the Guardian and countless ordinary humans would continue their work. They would guide, protect, and inspire in silence, shaping the world around them without recognition, without need for power, and without force. Humanity's greatest strength was hidden in plain sight, and now, Lyra was among the few who had seen it. The stars outside her viewport sparkled like distant promises, and Lyra felt a sense of peace and purpose she had never known. She had arrived expecting to observe a peaceful species, and she was leaving having witnessed something far more profound, a civilization defined by courage, wisdom, and the quiet heroism of everyday actions. Lyra whispered softly to herself, "Humans, you are more remarkable than anyone could imagine." Her ship sailed silently into the depths of space, leaving Earth behind but carrying with it the story of a species whose strength came from heart, mind, and the unwavering choice to protect and uplift one another. Humanity had taught her that true warriors were not defined by what they destroyed, but by what they nurtured, guided, and inspired. And that lesson, Lyra knew, would echo across the stars for generations to come.